Welcome to episode 389 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 10th of February 2021 and featuring Sarah Jane Adventures Secrets of the Stars, written by Gareth Roberts and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Tommy Knight as Luke Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Lang, Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra, and Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I am mid-conference and half-brain. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
It's cold up here.
Mad Matt Winchell.
I'm drinking sugar.
And Thomas Fireheart.
It's almost the exact opposite here, where I'm just glad that it's not hot enough that I'm melting.
Bastard.
Darn Australians.
How
having nice weather in the middle of winter.
Well, it's
summer
middle
for
of
him.
summer for them, yeah.
It's like July.
Yeah, how cold does it get where you are?
Specifically where I am, it gets like, I don't know what it would equal to, but
You can give it to me in Celsius, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's got as low here before last year as like 5 degrees Celsius.
Which is
in winter.
nothing.
It'll get colder elsewhere. Where I am is more of a heat magnet. Over the past couple of years, I've just started referring to where I live in North Queensland anyway, like the part of the state of Queensland that I live in, as just Satan's armpit. It is muggy, sweaty, and it fucking sucks.
Okay, how
God, the
hot
coldest
does
he
that-
got over there is 41 degrees. Oh, God,
Yeah, I was going
wish.
to say, it's like cold as 40 degrees there. How hot does it get there?
God, it depends. Exactly where I am, it can get into, like, I think yesterday, like, let's put it this way. Yesterday, the other day, like probably a few days ago now, it got up to 35 Celsius with 90+% humidity.
So barely,
wanted to
he'd like
melt.
around 95 degrees.
Which, yeah, not even 100 degrees.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
The
You
humidity
failed.
adds 10 degrees.
Yes,
yeah,
I'm aware of that.
Go further north and it was in the 40s. So,
Like I
yeah.
said, so your range is between basically 40 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
We've had over 100. We've had below 0.
Yeah.
Mm.
We go from basically around negative 40 in the dead of winter. That's pretty much, I think, the coldest I've ever seen it.
Something like that, if you had wind, yeah.
About 112 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. And that's with freaking damn near 100% humidity.
When I was in high school, Connecticut got anywhere from negative 20 to positive 120, also Fahrenheit. But over the past few years, I don't know if it's climate change or just roll of the dice, but it has not, the temperatures have not been so extreme.
That's basically roll the dice. I mean, apparently in like the 1940s or so, my grandparents actually saw Wisconsin without snow for an entire year.
We actually saw that a few years ago, but it was cold. It just didn't snow. It was like, one of those.
Oh, we
like
still had
no
snow.
precipitation. But yeah. So
not like a massive amount, but we did have snow.
But just to let you know, Thomas, that range in Celsius is about negative 40 to 44 degrees.
Oh, you beat me pulling it up.
So.
What is it, negative 20 that the two scales match on?
No, it's negative 40, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, negative 40, they're the same?
Negative 40 is negative 40, yes.
Okay.
Negative 40 is where we actually meet.
Mm-hmm. And that's approximately the coldest I've seen it in Wisconsin. I've seen wind chills down to negative 60 before. but that was wind chills. And I haven't seen -40 in Wisconsin, I want to say, since around 1992.
So I was going to say, not since the 90s for sure.
Because I remember that was the year the local schools were just like, don't send your kids to school.
I believe that. The coldest I've seen, I remember I was on a camping trip and I accidentally spilled my hot chocolate and it was ice by the time I physically touched it, like when I reached down to clean it up or whatever.
I just remember that was the week I sat at home and watched the Gulf War, the first one. You know, where you had those CNN pictures of flak fire. Yeah. That's the only reason I remember what year it was. Is because that's what I did instead of going to school when it was too cold to go outside.
So I talking about the Gulf War, I realized while watching WandaVision that if you go by decades, that was 4 decades ago, the Gulf War. I'm like,
Gulf.
Damn. Like, if you go by decades, not by years.
3 decades ago.
Nope. 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. So I was going to say, if you go by decades, not years. So yeah, that I felt new gray hairs arriving as I came to that.
I remember
young child. That does not know my age.
I was in, like, I think my first year of high school. I think. Like 9th grade. I think when that was going on. So, wow, I was 15. Jesus Christ.
I was 3.
What year was this?
1992.
92, 7.
Because 91 is when the beginning of the Gulf War happened.
I heard it was only 3 weeks long. Was I wrong? Was I misinformed about that?
Yes, you were, because the beginning of the Gulf War happened when Iraq invaded Kuwait. Then there was 6 months of buildup, and then 3 weeks of actual war.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's why. Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, there was some build-up to that first, and then the actual thing that lasted 3 weeks.
Just like when a U.S. history class teaches that World War I started in 1917 and ended in 1918, or that World War II started in 1941.
Yeah, that's absolute bullshit.
That's based entirely on America's declaration of war.
Yeah, because you got Desert Storm took 3 weeks, but before there was Desert Storm, there was Desert Shield, which was the military buildup.
See, they did not teach us about that. So for me, it was when I was in history class during Desert Storm 2, they taught us about Desert Storm 1 because they were like, this is actually relevant history that you guys need to understand current events. But they didn't teach us about Desert Shield.
Yeah, that's the thing. History class, especially pre-college,
they
teaches
skip
you
a lot of details.
Very basics.
I doubt we would have been taught about Desert Storm if not for the fact that the one year that we had a current events section was the year that it was the same year that the bombings happened. So
yeah, the first thing they teach you,
2001 to 2002.
The first thing they teach you in collegiate history is take everything you know about history, throw it out because most of it's wrong.
They kept it simple because your simple little children minds couldn't handle it.
Well, that and a lot of it is just propaganda to make you love the United States more.
50-50.
Well, yeah, half of what they teach you is propaganda. I mean, I remember we spent, packets and packets when I was in elementary school on Christopher Columbus, and all of that was bullshit.
Right.
Oh, yeah. They skipped a lot of stuff there.
Apparently, also, depending where you are in the country, they rush it so much that that history class in high school ends at World War II. Anything from the past 70 years is just you have to figure it out on your own.
Well, yeah, that's because they don't want to teach you. Well, actually, no. My history class ended with the Korean War, but they didn't want to teach you about Vietnam.
And the Korean War was a lot more recent then than it is now.
Yeah, but no, I mean, they didn't want to teach you about Vietnam.
Right.
Because Vietnam, we didn't succeed in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to teach you about the Iran-Contra arms scandal.
Right, which was very recent.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to teach you about the Bay of Pigs. No. They pretty much go from the Korean War to the assassination of JFK to the fall of the wall. Oh, and the landing on the moon. That's
of course.
That's bop.
So speaking of the moon, that's sci-fi enough to segue.
Fly me to the moon.
We've gone from the weather. We've gone from the weather to history class. So
yeah, we've had quite the tangent today.
On tonight's show, we've got birthdays. There is virtually no news except for what's coming out of Big Finish. I looked. There's nothing. There's not even film reports. Just a couple of interviews with some people that tell us absolutely nothing we don't know. We got a little bit of geek talk, but a little less than we normally have gotten. Then it's our summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So let's get into this.
So night. Let's go.
The first birthday was on February 4th, and that's the birthday of Peter Butterworth. Who the fuck is Peter Butterworth? He played the meddling monk back in the First Doctor era, 1965. He would have been 102, but he died in 1979 at the age of 59. Because he was in two different serials, he gets on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we've got two birthdays on the 10th. The first is an honorary birthday. One of those who was big in something else, and that is Michael Keating. Not Keaton, Keating. He played Gaudry in The Sunmakers, which we reviewed just a couple months back. Mm-hmm. But he's best known as Villa in Blake 7, and he turned 74. Next is the birthday of Peter Purvis, who played Stephen Taylor from 1964 to 65. He was kind of the replacement companion for Ian and Barbara. He turned 82.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, is still kicking it, and I believe still doing voices for Big Finish.
Last I checked.
All right, well, that is birthdays.
Hold on, Motobank.
Oh, yes. I had forgotten. Also, on February 4th, I believe, is the birthday of our own Mad Matt Winchell.
Yes, I don't think I said happy birthday yet.
Yes. I had forgotten because I did this list while I was half asleep.
Matt can look up pictures of himself, I'm sure.
I took a picture. I took a picture just in case the day of. So.
That's right. We wouldn't let you celebrate it during the podcast last week.
Come on, Matt. How old did you turn?
36.
36.
I'm a young pup character, Randy, but I'm older than the rest of you.
Yeah, you're like 10 years my junior.
Sometimes I feel like you make it seem like you're more years older than me than you are, so I keep thinking it's like a few years older.
And yet you keep thinking I'm younger than you when we first met. That's adorable.
I said that? Wait, I said that really?
I do recall you thinking I was about your age or younger.
Maybe I thought it was roughly my age, but
you make me feel young.
I would say you are. I would say you are roughly my age.
I think Matt became a grumpy old man before his time.
Maybe I think something inside me died and became grumpy old and infirm well before my years. But the rest is holding up well.
Once you're in your 30s, 3.5 years isn't a big gap.
I just remember you saying that you thought I was a lot younger than you thought I was. I'm like, oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, I thought I remember you still being in like high school or something back when we first met. Something close to that, Matt.
When we first met, no, I was just starting in MATC.
Just starting in MATC. You just finished high school.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh. I still consider freshmen high schoolers.
You mean freshman in college? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way Matt and I met is we both basically ran the console at Anime Club.
It was the first couple of years there. If it wasn't you running, I had emergency laptop. Just so happened.
Yep.
Can we see if the videos are run on this? I guess we can see if the videos are on this. Hey, they run. Okay, go.
Yeah, we basically turned into Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank.
That's why we run Iron Butt.
Although which of us was which depended on the particular week.
It did particularly depend on the mood set.
Yep. But yeah, because we'd always try to bring stuff to entertain the groups between, like, the anime, like music videos and stuff.
Music videos. Yeah. Occasionally, other people would come with little short things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, that was a long time ago before the Anime Club basically self-destructed.
Self-melted is what did.
Self-melted, and a part of it got reformed into the convention, which eventually blew up. But yeah,
happens.
Back when it was fun and not work. Yeah. Anyway, since birthdays are over, we're moving on to Big Finish. New releases this week with Big Finish. Gallifrey, The Time War Volume 4. This technically was out last week, but it didn't get published till late, so I didn't catch it. That should be the final volume in the Gallifrey Time War series.
For now.
So now it's possible to start budgeting for that series.
Also out is The Lone Centurion, Volume 1 with Arthur Darvill. Apparently, they're going to start a series to have that big break when he was waiting for Amy. The monthly episode is Fifth Doctor, The Blazing Hour with Peter Davidson and Mark Strickson. And then finally, Fourth Doctor Adventures Series 10, Volume 2 with Tom Baker and Louise Jameson was out this week. The free episode this week is The Companion Chronicles, The Story of Extinction, with Deborah Watling and Fraser Hines doing a dual role as Jamie and the Doctor. So, big week from Big Finish.
Yep, lots of little things coming out.
Last week, I think there was no Big Finish, right?
There's like 2 or 3 things.
There should have been the Time War Volume 4, but like I said, when I did the list, it wasn't out yet, and then it must have come out like a couple hours later.
Right. They saved everything up and released it all at once.
All right, so let's talk about Geek Talk. And Bill, if you spoilerize WandaVision, I will hurt you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll try not to spoil either of these, although I'm a little less stressed about. Well, actually, no, Mandalorian's still fairly recent, so I still.
Mandalorian is still fairly recent, so yeah, watch your mouth.
So yeah, these are both shows that were released this year on Disney Plus. Although Mandalorian season 2 might have actually been 2019. Now that I think about it.
Mandalorian season 2 was 2020.
Oh, it was filmed during 2020.
No, you know what? I thought it was 2020.
God damn it, Bill!
I forgot it was. So yeah,
Bill's lost a year now.
So WandaVision started in 2021, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it started in 2021 or like the last week of 2020.
Yeah, because it's on week 5 now, and we're only in like week. Oh, I see.
Actually, it's episode 5. It's been 4 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The first release was 2 episodes.
So first, Mandalorian season 2. So if The Mandalorian had been the trilogy of 3 movies released in 2015, I probably would have stayed as serious a Star Wars fan for the past 6 years as I was for the 15 years before that. It is the most cinematic Star Wars I have seen since I was a kid, and it is probably the single best argument I can come up with for bringing cinemas back after the pandemic, because there were definitely scenes in there that one would have loved to see on an actual cinema screen, and two would have actually been happy to hear the audience reaction for.
I can tell you this: it looked pretty good on my 60-inch TV.
Yeah, the score was awesome. They had several characters with leitmotifs. This is a really hard scene to talk about without spoiling it, but there was one scene that Star Wars fans I would say, have been waiting for since 1980, 1979, if you really want to be generous, that they actually build up to over the span of several episodes, with a character who I had been spoiled he was in the season. I had not been spoiled that he actually played a significant role. I thought he just had a cameo. And it was amazing. Like when that character finally achieved their big moment, it was amazing, and it had been something that I would have had been waiting for since I was a kid. I think Randy knows what I'm talking about.
I think I do. Yeah.
We had a brief discussion of this character last week. There was also a change to the pre-reboot continuity, and I actually liked the way it went. It actually made more sense than the original continuity to the character, and I thought it was handled really well. I was nervous about it because I had heard some spoilers, but I liked the way they handled it. Overall, I pretty much have no complaints about Mandalorian season 2. Ignoring behind the scenes stuff, because some of that gets complicated. Although one of the problems that people have had just got announced that she was fired, I'll say. But in terms of on-screen stuff, I loved it. There was one character I kind of wished was in it, but that's really like nitpicky fan ownership shit. So that has nothing to do with what the actual product was. Bottom line, if you're a fan of Star Wars, this is good. If you're a fan of the EU, it's even better. And yeah, Mandalorian season 2 is even better than season 1, I would say.
And of course, the character you're talking about, because we can talk about this because it's a news item, is Gina Carano was fired because she couldn't keep her mouth shut on Twitter.
Yeah,
basically.
Of course, after The Mandalorian ended, because Disney Plus didn't want everyone to cancel their subscriptions, they started airing WandaVision. And I'm actually, since I was almost done with season 2 last week, I was able to watch WandaVision also between last week and this week. And so it's on episode 5 now of an 8-episode season. They are roughly doing basically a parody of a decade of television, roughly each episode. And you can kind of, like, if you know sitcoms, you can kind of look at the production values and figure out what episode you're on. The most spoilery parts of WandaVision, I think, were spoiled by announcements and interviews beforehand, by which I mean, if you know what they're building up to, then you can kind of guess some of the big spoilers. There is a character that can be spoiled, but that character appears in like episode 1, so even that is not like of that sort of magnitude spoiler. But basically episodes 4 and 5 were that mid-season stakes hiring, where it went from being a fun what's going on to there's a conflict and a plot, and it's ramping up, and I would say it's really good. It's definitely one of those things where, unlike Mandalorian, which I kind of wish was a trilogy of movies, WandaVision is one of those shows that could only possibly be done as a show. I think it is kind of better on TV than watching it on a laptop or a phone, because it's actually it's parodying TV stuff. But yeah, it's pretty good. and I'm just waiting to see how the season ends. But if you have been on the fence about watching it, then I would say probably watch it.
Yeah. Like
I intend to watch it, but I'm kind of waiting for it to get done first so I
Yeah.
can just binge it.
It's
I'm-
mostly a comedy for the first 3 episodes, and then it starts to get more serious.
Yeah. I've been watching since it first became available, and I'm basically just waiting for it to be done before I talk about it.
Okay. So you don't want to react to anything I said? You want to wait till episode 8?
Is it only
More
8
likely.
episodes?
I thought it was 9.
I think it's 9.
I thought
Yeah.
it was supposed to be 8, but
Originally it was supposed to be 8. I'm pretty sure I heard they padded it out to 9 now.
I probably saw them say 8 weeks because, like you said,
It might have
Yeah.
been you
They
saw
might have
8
done
weeks and
two
this went 8
episodes at once.
episodes. No, the first
So-
release was 2 episodes.
Okay, so in that case, this was the
Yeah.
actual episode 5 would have been the real midpoint rather than episode 4. Okay.
Yeah. Which is funny
Technically.
because it's going to be longer than the others, but I think the idea is stuff like Falcon and Winter Soldier are like hour-long episodes apparently.
Mhm.
So that's the main difference is where these are closer to a half hour each.
I actually hadn't. That's probably why I was able to binge it so quickly. I did not pay attention to how long each
Yeah.
episode was.
Yeah.
But they
I
were
think-
parodying shows that were 30-minute episodes.
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
makes sense.
All right, yeah, you're confirmed. It is going to be 9 episodes. The final one is going to be March 5th.
Okay.
So I'll probably watch it sometime. I'll probably binge it sometime in March
hmm
and talk about it.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
I'm
Seems
done
like
unless,
that.
Yeah, I'm done unless Thomas wanted to react to anything since if he's also watching it.
I guess if nothing else, it's been funny because the sitcom pastiches. I don't know how I thought I was going to react, but so far I think the only one that they've done that's not hit me as much has been the 80s because I realized that was my blind spot for sitcom.
And the
Oh,
80s.
that's the one where I know about every sitcom that
and
ever
they-
happened.
Just
the
about,
80s
yeah.
The 80s one, I don't want to spoil much, but that's probably the one they kind of brush over the most without spending as much detail as they would the others.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was like, oh, 70s, okay. I grew up on. It's funny because
Mhm.
I don't know so much about 50s sitcoms if I grew up on many of those, but I was one of
Mhm.
those kids who would just like certain channels would just be showing them. I know people from the US say that they would watch these old sitcoms on like Nick at Night.
Yeah.
They'd be
But
on
for
Nick
me,
at
I
Night, and
think
then
it
they also
was-
eventually went to TV Land.
Yeah, I watched
I
I
think-
watched Lucy at Nick at Night, and then we actually watched a bit of Bewitched in witchcraft history class. So
Oh,
Lucy, both Lucy shows.
I'm
Bewitched,
sorry,
I
I-
Dream of Jeannie.
there were 2 Lucy shows.
Oh, there's 2 of them, yeah.
I did not know this.
Well, the second Lucy show, she was on her own, separated.
yeah, that
and the
was
kids
that
would
was
occasionally
after
get
she
disappear.
separated from Arnaz. Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh,
Huh.
yeah, that
Alright.
one's not as well known as the I Love Lucy.
That's the
Mhm.
one my mother remembers better. So.
Oh.
I just noticed the name of episode 5 is On a Very Special Episode, and I find that to be funny as hell
Mhm.
because that was the era I always that I
Special
always
episode of Blossom.
yes, that's what annoys
Yeah.
it's what I call any episode that's trying to push a social agenda
Mhm.
is a
The
very
PSA
special
hell
Well, the-
agendas, yeah.
The
A
thing was,
PSA episode.
at
Yeah.
a certain time, you couldn't have an episode that dealt with certain topics without calling it a very special episode, so people were warned.
Yes,
Don't watch this with your kids if you don't want them to see the real world.
yes, I know, but Blossom in particular was well known for
Mhm.
doing
Gotcha.
that every other week. So you get the
Blossom is
trailer
one I'm
next
not familiar
week
with.
on a very special Blossom, and it
Mhm.
was always it always pissed me the fuck off because I didn't care.
On
And-
Blossom was 90s, so it's right around the era that I should
That's-
have known, but I didn't know it.
That's why I nailed Vincent and the Doctor to the wall. Was because they even came with the thing at the end of the episode, if you know anybody who's suffering from depression, you should call this hotline. And I'm like, oh God, they've turned my Doctor Who into a very special blossom. Ah! It's why to this day I hate that episode with burning passion.
But the title does fit in that it's one of the more, it does deal with some serious subject matter.
No.
I'm definitely not telling you anything more about it, but
good, because I don't want to kill you.
I will say the thing that'll bother me when they get to the 90s is if they don't have A, Full House references, and
they
B,
did, episode 5 would be the 90s. They did
no, episode 5 is the 80s.
No, because they did 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And I can talk about it more with Thomas one-on-one, because if I talk about it any more, it will involve spoilers.
Because I was just reading something that it was like 50s, 60s, 70s side episode, 80s.
Okay, so that's the spoilers I didn't want to mention. The
like when they get to the 90s, I know people have mainly been joking, well, Elizabeth Olsen, it would seem a bit weird to skip over Full House. But also, like, there has to be a Sabrina pastiche. If there isn't, I'll feel robbed. But I am also a kid of the 90s. It really
depends on where they go with it, because the 90s had so many iconic sitcoms as well.
It had a ton, yeah.
I mean, had those. It had Roseanne. It had, oh God, there's a bajillion things that they could spoof from the 90s.
Friends, Seinfeld, Raymond.
Friends is Seinfeld, yes. Friends is starting to get into that 2000s, and then.
But yeah,
just barely.
Friends, Cosby Show was 80s more, 80s, maybe 80s to 90s.
80s to 90s.
Cosby Show is 80s. Cosby Show is 80s.
I couldn't remember when it ended, but
Fresh Prince would be 80s.
Fresh Prince started in 90s.
Fresh Prince is 90s, dude.
Okay. Full House started in the 80s, ended in the 90s.
I remember when Fresh Prince started.
Yeah.
I was already at grade school.
But yeah, I don't think they do it that specific of references. It's more unless it's entirely possible.
I mean,
references. I think it's more aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know we've definitely gone over 5 minutes.
Anyways, yeah.
All right.
We are tangenting on the tangents tonight.
Well, that's fine, because these are the only two things we got. So,
and I guess I'm next anyway, and this is going to be quick. You can still time me if you want, but if I go over 5 minutes...
Yeah, I got the stopwatch. It's ready. So, ready?
Go ahead. Yep.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, according to Mr. Smith, nothing happens in episode 1, but I guess I should cover it a little bit. An astrologer is reading somebody's fortune, and then first he says it's all fake and he doesn't want to take her money, and then he gets hit by a meteor and completely changes his mind. After that, he does a magic show on stage, some sort of show on stage, where he seems to be hypnotizing people based on their date of birth. Luke gets a bit emo because he doesn't have a date of birth and refuses to accept the day that he came into being as his birthday. Then the astrologer guy basically sends out a broadcast signal, hypnotizes every Gemini and every Cancer in the town. This includes blanking on names, even though I shouldn't. Clyde, I should know Clyde's name by now. To almost attack them. He stops, and at first Sarah Jane thinks it's because like hypnosis, where if they try to make you do something that is against your nature, it doesn't work. They later find out that's not the reason. They meet up where the astrologer is, as he's trying to perform a ritual with all of the Geminis and Cancers. But apparently, because Luke doesn't have a birthday, he has a superpower that can disrupt everything. All of the plans fall apart. The astrologer guy starts burning up or some shit. And then the episode ends and they tell everyone that it was a hijacked TV signal at the end.
Okay. 1 minute, 51 seconds.
That was actually longer than I thought I would go, but I added some extra details.
Okay, so what did we like about the cereal? And Thomas, you're first?
Let's see. Specific thing. I guess I just like the stuff with Luke because it feels like it could be hammering it in a bit much, maybe, but like at least for me it works. The whole thing of like it's like an arc of like, oh, he feels weird and different because he doesn't have a birthday or whatever, but it ends up being essentially what saves their asses. So it's like, oh, that isn't all bad.
All right. Bill?
I was hoping you were going to say Matt. So what I like about the episode is I think I'm going to pass. I don't know. Nothing really stood out to me as that favorable.
All right. Matt?
Wow. I got bad feeling about Bill's review already. I'm gonna go with the main villain, the astronomer guy. I found him to be very entertaining. He was over the top quite a bit, but he's supposed to be a guy who's supposed to be there to capture your attention in the first place. So I felt it was pretty apt for the character to be at least somewhat hammy some of the time, and the fact that he was a legitimate threat, so it didn't matter how he was acting, if he was acting a little hammy, that he could still pass off the whole "I am going to wreck stuff if you don't take me at least a little bit seriously" kind of deal. So I found him to be kind of interesting because he could be both sides at the same time. And also there's a little more towards the end where he does kind of reveal that he actually is kind of a not all there human to begin with, which is probably why he was possessed. And that's what in the end causes him to dissipate, is because apparently he didn't want to let go of the power, so we don't know for sure if he died or if he just went to wherever, air quotes, the light came from to remain part of it. So who knows? There's always a chance that he could come back. But he might take another form by then. Oh, I think things hung. Be just a moment. There we go. You probably didn't hear that. I don't know. Hello?
I heard most of it, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, it just kind of things started to hang on my end again. Here, I'm going to start something in the background. Continue. I can hear you now.
All right. Oh, God, it's up to me. What did I like about this cereal? Is there anything I liked about this cereal?
Wow. So we have common ground.
Wow. It wasn't a godsend, but wow, it wasn't that terrible, guys.
Yeah, I know, but it's more along the lines of blah. There's nothing that stands out.
This really is going to be a short episode.
We can go back to talking about WandaVision. No.
Go back to talking about the cold. Anyway.
Crickets.
Nah, I'm gonna pass. Let's talk about what we disliked. And Thomas, you're first.
God, I don't know if there's a specific like overall aspect that I disliked enough, so I'll see if I can think of something, but if I can't quickly enough, I'll probably just pass.
It would be hilarious if we had
I
pass
can't.
for what they dislike and two people pass for what they
it's
like.
there are things that I'm like kind of iffy on, but they're more like something that I would bring up in a scene more than an overall aspect. So I'll just pass for now, and if I think of something, I'll bring it up at the end.
All right.
So I should pick one of my top 3 because there's other people behind me. I'm going to go with Luke's arc because it really did not make sense to me and kind of annoyed me that yes, you weren't like physically born out of a vagina, but you still had a day in which you came into being and there were stars in the sky on that day. And I don't understand how any of that gives you superpowers to break the powers of astrology. And it just, the more closely I look at it, the more it annoys me.
Okay, so Bill's being a stickler. Matt.
Oh, I got a bigger one for you. Actually, I don't even mind Luke's random abilities. What I worry about is how the villain's doing this all in the first place, because that makes even less sense. Somehow he has some sort of psychic connection where he can call out people one at a time, prejudged by the stars, etc., etc., and then he can brainwash people over the television?
See, that
what the hell?
Bother me.
No, that's just basically Wonder Woman 1984.
I suddenly have less desire to watch that movie at all.
But yeah, that almost reminds me of like the whole idea, like if you know somebody's true name, you can control them. Except in this case, it's more like knowing what star, what their birthday is and what stars were in the sky at that time.
My problem is with that whole concept is that the stars are such a relative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're born in the house of Aries is just where this particular planet was in that particular moment. And, when you're looking at an alien that's invading from a pan-galactic level.
Right.
That, especially from
maybe that's why he possessed an astrologer.
Time before the universe existed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of bothers me.
Yeah, I guess if anything, just to jump in on this, if I had to say anything, it would probably fit in with this, in that them figuring out what's going on by kind of just pulling it out of their ass like that, and it just happens to be right, is a bit okay. That's a bit convenient, even for a kid show. I'm like, okay, yeah, that is kind of
talking about the stars being relevant, combined with my issue. Actually, one thing that would have been really cool. I'm guessing that the constellations are very different, say Australia versus UK.
Yes.
It would have been amazing if they couldn't control somebody because they got the stars wrong because that person happened to come from Australia or something.
Well, the thing is though that the astrological signs are the same. No matter where you are, your birth date controls the sign you're under. From what I understand of astrology, which is not a fucking lot, but at least a little.
Because there's you don't actually have just one sign. You have 5 signs or so. There's a rising and what about the freaking moon and
what about freaking Chinese astrology?
Right. Oh, and the fact that, as a matter of fact, even the show brought up that there's multiple different astrologies depending upon which planet you're on.
Yeah, but this was an astrologer from Earth, on Earth, so that made sense to me.
Yes, but that
doesn't make sense for any other place in the galaxy.
He's supposed to be controlling the world, but he's using, European astrology as opposed to Chinese astrology, which has 13 houses based on animals.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really weird loopholes.
It's a lot of location bias. because I'm pretty sure, there was also a form of Native American astrology, either North American or South American too. And so, assuming that the 12 houses that I think were made in Babylon or Egypt or Greece or something is what's going to control the entire planet is kind of presumptuous. In my opinion. Personally, I think astrology is a bunch of hippie bullshit, but I never got into it. I never did that. If I'm getting my fortune told, it's from a Chinese cookie.
I would be more tolerant of the idea of astrology if I didn't know so many people who used it to be like, oh, all insert sign here, all are assholes, etc. They're unfit dating partners because of what month they're born. Things like that make me view astrology from a negative lens.
Yeah, and I'm of the same opinion. Astrology for me is entertainment. It is something not to take seriously.
At least not since the 1800s, that's for darn sure.
Yeah.
It's, oh, well, this would happen. Oh, well, okay, cool, whatever. But, people that live their lives by this shit, they need help.
Yeah, at that point you might as well be cracking up a fortune cookie and using the lucky numbers to try and win the lottery.
I've done that.
Lucky numbers. 5, 15, 22.
I've done that, but I was doing it on a lark, Yeah. People that are trying to do this to win, that's the people I have a problem with. Okay, I think we've discussed what we disliked. Favorite scene? Thomas, you're first.
Actually, yeah. This basically has been one that I've had in my head the whole time. I'll just end up going with it. And that's the moment pretty much in the start of the first episode where, he's about to take the woman's money and then it's like, oh, we might be behind on our mortgage or something, but I don't care. And he just immediately is like, whoa, hey, I don't want you to be behind on your mortgage. This is all bullshit. I didn't think you were like actually in financial trouble because of this.
Grifter with a conscience.
Yeah. And it shows that he's not a bad person until he's possessed and he becomes a complete and total monster.
Yeah, it's after his possession that he loses his conscience, it seems.
Yeah.
All right. Bill, how about you?
So I'm going to go with the scene in the auditorium with the up and down. I like you could be like I like the way Clyde is kind of just like, I'm not sure why I'm standing up right now, and then he continues to do it, and you're like, okay, this is clear. Clearly something's happening too. He's building up to something. I thought that went very well.
Okay. Matt?
I think I liked the bit later towards the end of episode 1, not the end. The part where they try to confront the guy. I can't remember his name. But then he's just like goes, yeah, I'm a bit more than you'd expect. You can't find anything on me. Go ahead, scan away. And by the way, here's proof that I am a legitimate threat if you continue to pester me and laser beams out of the fingers.
All right. Before I choose mine, can I just say, what is up with Doctor Who and astrologers being possessed by alien energy?
Do we have a lot of them?
Mask of Mandragora?
Oh, we have one, yeah.
Oh, yeah, not a human.
He was technically an astrologer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a court astrologer until he gets possessed by the Mandragora energy. Here, he's a charlatan astrologer until he gets possessed by whatever the fuck that is.
The weird red light from space.
Not an astrologer, not a charlatan so much as he doesn't get it, but just as he doesn't actually believe what he's peddling.
Astrology peddler. Yeah, that's the way to put it.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I think a lot of televangelists are like that too.
But I think my favorite part was after they go for all this to cut the master switch in episode 2. He's just like, "Oh, you flipped a switch. Whoop-de freaking do." It was, you were thinking that was going to be it. That was going to be the moment. Nope.
It's like, dude, you're dealing with like cosmic forces beyond your comprehension. What the hell do you think flipping a switch is gonna do?
Yeah, at that point, I'm just like, okay. I'll give him credit for that one.
I'm more than just a power switch.
Least favorite scene.
It's not so much the entire scene, but it's a bit of one, and it's when they confront him, and like just the one particular bit of hammy acting. I'm just like, it didn't particularly work.
Oh yeah, he did get weirdly hammy at one point where he was like yelling at them as they're running out the door.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, that's maybe turn it back down a bit, because like before
that was the one point where he did get a little over hammy. I'll admit.
Yeah, it's like
you're saying the scene on the staircase.
But like just before that, when he's like sort of
when they're in his like a little rooftop apartment thing, just as they're running out the door. All of a sudden, he starts doing this weird yelling thing, and he's going super ham.
He starts trying to choose scenery.
Yeah, he was when he tried to get the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's fine before that and after that, but that
one particular little segment,
So before you're done with yours, right?
Yeah.
So before I do mine, because I didn't have time to watch it twice, because I did not end up watching it twice. So was there they didn't say anything about like Mr. Smith being like zapped with any energy or rays or anything that would affect his behavior, right?
Nope.
Okay. Then I can definitely say that scene where he's just chanting, "Nothing is happening, nothing is happening."
End of episode 1, start of episode 2,
yeah. Yeah, the cliffhanger, while Clyde is like inches away from being about to kill them.
Well, he's basically starting up the apocalypse, is
right
what it looks like.
So yeah, that was just too much for me. I was just like, I could understand him, like if he was like, oh, like the scene where he was like, nothing caused that fire. I can get it. Like certain things can be above Mr. Smith's ability to understand, and that's actually for the best, because sometimes I feel like he's too powerful.
Yeah,
he could be too useful at times. Yes,
but that whole thing of him like just chanting, "Nothing is happening." You have eyes, you have ears, like you can tell things are happening in the room. And on top of that, like unless somebody held a magnet up to you, there's no reason for you to be repeating it.
There was like a wind going, right?
Yeah, there was a wind and stuff going.
Yeah, that's the thing. He should have been saying, "I detect a wind force in the room, but I can't detect a source."
It was a wind source, and there's literally like, I assume, some sort of like almost earthquake kind of rumbling going on.
Even if like the whole mystic power thing was making it so he couldn't detect Clyde, it would still make sense for him to be like, "Sarah Jane, why are you upset? What are you reacting to?"
Yeah.
No, I think he could detect
instead of just shouting, "Nothing is happening."
But he couldn't detect anything unusual with Clyde. So Clyde's doing his fucked up gesture, stuff.
Right.
The wind is blowing. He should be able to detect the wind, but he should not be able to figure out where it's coming from. Right. Ground is shaking. He should be able to check there's a seismic disturbance,
right?
But he can't figure out a cause.
Yeah.
He should be going crazy because of, I can't figure out the cause.
Right.
No source, no cause. Logic error.
Yeah.
But instead, they're just like, nothing is happening. Yeah,
this is why K9 is a better robotic companion than.
But he's off like
He's off trying to close
well, mind you,
black
also
hole.
this is the Russell T Davies era.
Yeah, they didn't have the rights.
And Russell T loved repeating shit.
Oh yeah.
That's why the Cybermen suddenly had the catchphrase of Elite and the "Hey, who turned out the lights? Hey, who turned out the lights?"
Although this is still a few years before Stephen Moffat, Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who,
please.
Doctor Who.
Phil, I got to hit you now because that was a horrible thing. The second I heard that, I wanted. That was, I think, the point I needed to go kick Moffat in the nuts.
Yeah.
That was the point I got full on pissed at Moffat.
That's also the point that we decided to make this podcast.
I think every one of us agreed with you there. Even Flynn, who's currently not with the podcast, but was part of us, but did bring that up.
Did review, yeah.
That was the end of season 6, and that was the season that just pissed me off the most. To this day.
And then more things came along. Oh dear.
We haven't even finished reviewing that season.
No, we haven't. Kill me, please.
That's going to be one of the last things we do. And then I'm going to probably have to go. Yeah, when we get to that, I'm going to have to start bitching again. All right.
We'll start and end the podcast with Randy bitching about episodes.
But
with us bitching about that particular season.
Yeah, there was a better way to do Mr. Smith, and that scene is a failure. They just that was a moment of that scene just needed to bake another round, you know. 5 more minutes at 350, and it probably would have been okay. But they took it out a little too early, and it shows that little bit of Russell T-ism.
Yeah, I guess even they could have just had like Mr. Smith not even reacting at all, and just being
just say that once, or then be done with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you notice it did that nothing is happening until Clyde stopped making the wind blow and the earth shake, and then he immediately shut up. Even though he was not prompted to.
Yeah.
Meaning he could detect something was happening.
Right.
Stupid writers.
Anywho. That was
our least favorite scene, wasn't it?
Yeah, least favorite scene, I believe.
We're an hour in and we're at final thoughts. Jesus.
Well, actually, did I do my least favorite scene?
Oh no, I think I thought I got in on Bill's, yeah.
So you skipped me just me?
Well, we figured you would pass. No.
I'm sorry, Matt, but nothing was happening.
I'll show you the nothingness. Anyway, my least favorite scene had to be the moment they abducted Clyde.
Yeah.
Making sure I got his name right. Yeah. The moment they abducted him, like literally, he's walking down the street. He just hung up on his phone, I think, and he's just a main thoroughfare somewhere, and it's like nobody noticed 2 creepy people in white suddenly picking up a child and running off of him.
Sorry, Clyde. 2 of us forgot your name this week.
Well,
for a reason, his is the name I have the hardest time remembering. I remember Ronnie, I remember Maria, I remember Luke, but Clyde, for a reason.
It's an uncommon name, but it's not so uncommon that it stands out, I think.
Yeah.
I remember Clyde easy because he was one of the ghost monsters.
Huh?
One of the Pac-Man.
Oh.
He was one of the ghosts in Pac-Man.
I was waiting for you to elaborate, and it's just like beat.
Inky, Winky, Blinky, and Clyde.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they replaced Clyde with Sue in Miss Pac-Man.
I think I've seen it with Sue more often because they had Miss Pac-Man at Pizza Hut.
The fact that I remember the name of all the frickin' ghosts from Pac-Man.
I remember most of the names of the ghosts. I wasn't thinking Pac-Man, so I was like, wait, what?
When I say ghost monsters, that's always Pac-Man to me.
Gotcha.
That's what we always called them, were ghost monsters. Because some of the text in it said ghosts, some of the text said monsters, so they became ghost monsters. It's like soda pop. I think that might have been also what they called them in the old Pac-Man cartoons too. Jesus Christ, I'm old.
I remember a Pac-Man cartoon.
Yeah, I never watched
In
that.
particular, I saw the Christmas special at least a couple times.
Anyway, that's how I always remembered Clyde's name, because it was one of the ghosts from Pac-Man. That's all I.
So sorry, Matt. You were saying, or did you finish?
I did finish the abduction scene where nobody noticed a child getting abducted by two creepy people in white outfits.
That didn't bother me because these guys were like basically brimming with some kind of psychic energy. So
still, that's really weird. And it's not even this weird that no one noticed. It's weird that he's down on the main street and nobody's there.
Their psychic energy only affected people whose birthday they knew, right?
Basically, people that they seem to immediately touch, at least at first, until they did the whole signal thing. Anyway, yeah, still, there's some weird hodgepodge in this.
I like the fact that they basically appeared out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, it was a cool effect of them just literally sidestepping into frame and going,
When did they get the ability to teleport?
They didn't teleport. The editor's working with them.
They have the power of plot. Well, we need them to suddenly be there, so now they have the power to teleport. Doesn't matter that they don't use it before or after. Now they suddenly have the power. Fuck you guys. All right,
do they
final
have the
thoughts?
sword of power?
Thomas.
Yeah, this is a story that, while I don't necessarily think it's as good as Day of the Clown, my stance, I forget if I said it on the podcast last week, but I definitely said it after the fact, is I've yet to see a Sarah Jane Adventures story that I have thought was bad. Like, the worst to me is okay. And I would argue that this is probably closer to just, it's okay, or like it's just a flat good, than Day of the Clown by comparison. Like, there are issues. I'm willing to forgive certain things. Not even so much because it's a kid's show, but just I just like enjoy the I think it's just a matter of the acting for the most part is good enough and whatever that I'm just willing to just roll with it. Yeah, I would say it's worth checking out. If you, I mean, like, honestly, I would argue people should just check out Sarah Jane Adventures anyway, because it's like fairly solid. But yeah, certain things aside, I honestly think this is fairly good.
So this episode was going to be a hard sell to me at the start, just because they literally start off with astrology jargon. And I was like, okay, you're going to have to sell this to me. And then they proceeded to not really sell it to me. I could take the main villain at certain times, but at certain times he just felt way over the top, especially for something made in the 2000s. Luke's plot bugged the shit out of me. The thing with Mr. Smith bugged the shit out of me. I think Ronnie was just there. I'm not even sure if she had a point being in the episode. So all in all, I think there were some interesting ideas that they could have used, but I don't think they took any of them in a direction that I liked, and I just was not a fan. This was probably my least favorite Sarah Jane episode.
All right, Matt.
I have to agree a little bit with Bill. This is getting pretty mediocre. I think my major problem with this is the plot. I think the majority of the acting outside maybe one or two scenes was still pretty good. I do feel that Ronnie was kind of forgotten about, and even Sarah Jane to some minor degree was kind of forgotten about. Basically, Ronnie was just there to tag around with Sarah. and worry about her parents. The majority of focus was definitely on Clyde and on Lucas, as they had more things actually going on with their characters. I don't agree that the Luke plot was that bad, although I felt like it could have used a little more, what do you want to say? I felt like it could have used a little more backing up to it. It did just feel like Luke's issues just kind of came out of nowhere and kind of stayed there, and then, oh, huzzah, it's actually an okay thing. A little shoehorned in, but not any more shoehorned in than some of the other plot points in this episode, as far as I'm concerned.
You done?
Yep.
Okay. So yes, I believe the major failure in this story is the writing. It is literally a case where I think Russell T needed to sit down with the writer and go through it and let it bake another round. Because and he was probably just too busy at the time, because it really feels like there's several ideas that just happened because of plot. Without any reason why for and why theirs and any of that. The Luke plot, when you think about it, does not make sense. Yes, he doesn't have a birthday, but there is a day he is created. Well, if Luke doesn't have a day because he was born, what about every test tube baby that's ever been made through artificial insemination? I guess they all were immune too and could have fixed this. It obviously didn't think about that.
Or someone broached the subject and they were just like, nah, it's a kid's show.
Either way, it's not something that when you think about has an answer. The villain suddenly having the power of teleportation because of plot is another one where, a good script editor would have said, nope, take it back, rewrite it. And there just seems to be a few of those little holes in the plot. The acting's okay. Special effects are pretty standard. It's just a case of there's some areas where the writing just kind of collapses in on itself and causes some issues. And because of that, it's not as successful an episode as the ones we've seen recently. So let's rate this. Thomas, you're first.
I was going back and forth on something, but it's generally going to be lower than Day of the Clown because I do not think it's as good as that, but I'm juggling whether or not I can justify going even lower or not. You know what? Yeah, screw it. I'll give this a 3.5.
I was really convinced you were going to give this a 4 from some of your language, but I seem to have trouble gauging what you're going to rate things based on the words you use.
Like, I put it this way, my with me, there'll be things where I'll start the podcast with a certain rating in mind, and your opinions can make me think more about certain things that will potentially drag it down.
Yeah, I never choose my rating until this time because I take everything into consideration.
But yeah, so as much as the writing is probably the only thing I can easily point to, I think the writing drags it down enough that my gut is to give this a 2.0.
Oh! Oh!
Who pissed in your cornflakes? Who peed in your tea?
Oh, Jesus Christ. That, by the way, is the lowest score he's given anything this season. Matt!
I've been struggling a little bit on deciding, but I think I also decided on a 3.5.
3.5.
I don't think it's quite mediocre, but it's not as good as a 4, I feel.
Oh, no, I am going in a mediocre direction, and I'm giving it a 3. No, because like I said, there's just so many of these plot issues that just keep dragging it down for me. That just, if they just had given this one more pass in the writing, probably would have worked. But either they didn't have time for another pass, or Russell T didn't have time to fully edit it. And either way, that's a failure on the writer and the showrunner.
And this is why you don't try to run 3 shows at the same time, Russell.
Right.
So, when that average is calculated, it proves that I am right. And the average is 3.0. Puts this at number 326 out of 376 things reviewed. So it is in the bottom lots, people.
Considering that this is actually low end for us. Oof.
Yeah. There is no Sarah Jane Adventures within that range. This is, I think, the lowest ranking Sarah Jane Adventures that we have put out thus far.
Well, that's a yikes in of itself.
And let's see.
The next highest would be
3.63, The Gift.
3.6. You sure about that?
That's according to our TV story chart page.
Oh, yeah, why is that rounded to 3.7 on this? I don't know. But yeah, at number 232, The Gift. So, wow, that is a 100 points below the highest one.
Although we have reviewed less than half of the Sarah Jane Adventures, I think.
So
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
have to see if there's another garbage episode that'll be even lower than this one. But still, there isn't going to be anything as low as the 0.7 that Journey to the Center of the TARDIS currently has.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. That's tough competition trying to beat Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
Garbage episode.
Oh, yeah. I've been actually socializing in another group a little bit, and I actually brought up Journey to the Center of the TARDIS and how much it pissed us off, and I heard a good couple of laughs. Apparently, we're not the only ones out there.
Well, it's a question between Miracle Day and Sarah Jane if anything can beat Cyberwoman, but I doubt it.
Oh.
That's 1.5.
Well,
I mean, that was
they can
low,
try,
but then
darn it.
Anyway, as I mentioned, it is 326 out of 376. That is all we have to say about Sarah Jane Adventures: Secrets of the Stars.
All right, so please let us know in the comments, what do you think? Hell, go on rants about why we misunderstand astrology if you want. It'll YouTube algorithm will appreciate it, so you're welcome to. Otherwise, don't forget to like or dislike the video, depending on how you feel. And subscribe and ring the bell to get our new exports every week on YouTube, or follow us on Twitch to see our new streams every Wednesday night.
All right, so next week we are going into the final Sarah Jane Adventures that we are doing this particular year, or at least this particular season. You can join us next week for Sarah Jane Adventures: Mark of the Berserker, written by Joseph Lidster and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Tommy Knight as Luke Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Rani Chandra, and Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith. God, that's such a mouthful.
See you next week.